All right, so we're getting ready for a lab, and I want you to first look at the MSDS sheet that you actually have two of them. Golly, how much more do I have to do for you guys?
I don't know. Which one is used? She's just being really picky. Yeah, Misha, you don't really need one of those.
She's asking for the sound to be turned down. Okay, so we're getting ready for a lab of a type that we haven't done yet. This is a much more detailed kind of lab. And up to now, most of the labs we've been doing have been inquiry-based labs, and this is not so much inquiry. There is some inquiry involved in this, but this is a more of a detailed kind of lab, the kind of thing that not a pure scientist would do, but an applied scientist would do. Okay? So what we have here, let's see if I've got all my markers. Okay. This MSDS stands for Material Safety Data Sheet. And the EPA requires these for any chemical on any facility site over a certain amount. And any chemical meaning, I mean, water's a chemical. It doesn't require it for water, but I mean anything that they have on their list of hazardous chemicals. Okay? So lead nitrate then is considered to be a hazardous chemical. All right? And this actually goes through in some detail explaining what those hazards are. Now, in your lab notebook, you need to record some of the basic hazards. Now, what I've done is I have sort of stuck in here some notes to you about what I expect to see in your lab notebook for hazards. Okay? I've also given you the website address to find this same MSDS or any other MSDS that comes from what used to be Mallincroft Baker. It's now another company, was bought out. But I like the way they lay out their MSDSs, and I like to use them. I think they're easier to read and understand. So if you will read what's here in these boxes, it tells you here that you're going to put down all of the emergency overview in your lab notebook for that chemical. And make sure you do it in black or blue indelible ink. Okay? You also need, you can't erase it. That's what indelible means. You need to put down potential lab hazards. And it gives you some detail about what that means. It doesn't mean copy everything that's here. You want to summarize what's there in words that you understand. Okay? So if you don't understand what something means on here, look it up. Okay? Make sure you understand before you put it down. What's the point of writing it down if you don't understand it? Okay?
There isn't one.
That's right. There's also some things you don't need to put on here. Okay? What we're looking for are potential lab hazards, not things that can happen outside a lab or that are the result of the lab plus other things. So, for example, down here it's talking about aggravation of pre-existing conditions. Unless you have a pre-existing condition, you don't need that. Okay? Chronic exposure. Chronic means continual exposure over a long period of time. Well, you're not going to get continual exposure over a long period of time in a lab, are you? On the other hand, if you're around a lot of lead paint, maybe you need to list that in your lab notebook. That makes sense? Okay. And so it goes through the same thing for firefighting measures. All right? Firefighting measures actually are continued on the next page.
Wow. Wow. So there's a fire?
Well, what I'm getting to is, does anybody here have any NIOSH approved self-contained breathing apparatus? That's a firefighting equipment. We don't have that. You don't need this. If there's a fire, what are you going to do?
Stop, drop, and roll.
No, you're going to get out of the building.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Well, only if you're on fire. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
But what about somebody else on fire?
If they're on fire, then you throw the fire blanket on them after you take off the plastic covering.
What?
Don't throw the fire blanket on them with the plastic still on it.
Because the plastic might burn.
Or melt.
Melt, right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Does everybody understand? Now, if you'll flip through this, you will see that there are actually two MSDS sheets in this little packet. There's another one for potassium iodide. And I don't give all those things to you, all those specific arrows pointing out what you need to write down in there. I've written in this one box here that you have to figure it out for yourself using the previous MSDS sheet as your guide.
Oh, wow.
Does that make sense?
So that's homework for tonight.
That's part of your homework for tonight. It really doesn't take that long. Okay? Don't go getting, crazy on me here.
How long do you think it takes?
Well, all of this shouldn't take more than 45 minutes to get ready for this lab.
Wow. Wow. That's like a half class period.
Oh well. Okay.
I'd say that's a good thing. It is a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Now, let's talk about the lab, the pre-lab. You need to have your procedures outlined. Outlined. That doesn't mean you have to have them word for word. It means they need to be outlined in your lab notebook. So here's your procedure sheet. Okay?
That's a lot we have to copy.
Well, the first thing here, it says summarize the hazards. Well, we just talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Summarize.
Summarize the procedures. Okay? Now, I also have listed an address, a web address, for a video that shows you how to use what's called a Buckner funnel.
Can you show us that?
No, I can't play YouTube videos in here.
What now? Use TeacherTube.
I can't do that. They have cut off access to YouTube.
Yeah, that's TeacherTube.
No, TeacherTube you can't use either. Okay, now listen, please. Okay? So you need to have your procedures done, and I'm only going to be looking for, let's see, hold on, the procedures 1 through 1 and 2 here for tomorrow. The rest of them you need to have at least by Thursday. Okay? So your hazards and procedures through the second procedure here. Got it?
Got it.
That's what I'm looking for tomorrow. Yes?
So you want us to do the procedures on the video and procedures under number 2?
Well, you need to look at the video and just, make sure you kind of understand what you're doing with the Buckner funnel. Okay?
You don't have to write it out.
You don't have to write a lot of detail, but if you looked at the video and you write a couple lines to yourself, you probably have it down. That makes sense?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that hard. Okay? But a Buckner funnel is different from one you've seen before, so I want you to be aware of what we're going to be doing with that. Okay? It's a special kind of funnel used when you're pulling a vacuum to separate your materials. Yes?
So, our procedures are already given for us to write.
Hmm?
You want us to just rewrite procedures?
I don't want you to write the procedures. I want you to outline the procedures. Summarize the procedures. Okay? Now, please note, the Buckner funnel doesn't come along in the procedures until Thursday. So if you don't have the opportunity, and I would suggest you take the opportunity if it's possible at all, that you watch the video tonight. But given the fact that some of you might have a real exception and not just an excuse, okay, then you still have until the following day, because we don't need the Buckner funnel until Thursday. Okay? That makes sense?
Right.
Any questions about what you're doing to get ready for the lab?
Yes.
Who has a question?
So we write down the hazards for both of these things, and then we outline procedures.
That's pretty much it.
Do you not want us to use front back? You just want us to use front back?
In your lab notebook, you only write on the right-hand side of your lab notebook, not on the left-hand side.
I agree.
Okay?
Yeah.
Only in black and blue pen that cannot be erased.
Woo!
All right, now
Wait, what is indelible hazard?
you cannot erase it.
Okay.
There's erasable pens. I don't want you to be able to erase them. That's what indelible means. Okay? All right. Listen, please. Listen, please. One other thing you need to do in the pre-lab, getting ready for tomorrow's lab, and this needs to be in your lab notebook, you need to make sure you have a balanced equation.
Oh, wow.
And then I would balance that on a separate sheet of paper and keep up with that. Okay? But then transfer the balanced equation once it's done to your lab notebook. You don't have to show the atom inventory in your lab notebook, just the balanced equation. Does that make sense? Everybody clear? All right. Because when we get done with this lab, you've got a whole bunch of other stuff to do down here that's going to require a balanced equation. So keep up with that sheet. Any questions about getting ready for the lab?
So what are you looking for tomorrow for our homework?
All of your hazards and procedures through number 2 in your lab notebook. Okay? And then by Thursday, the remainder of the procedures need to be in your lab notebook. Got it?
In the balance equation.
What now? Yes, that's part of that needs to be in there. What do you think is going to happen when you do this?
There's a
So we have to do the whole.
Right here, it says write a short paragraph in pen in your lab notebook describing what you expect to happen when these solutions are mixed. Well, when you write your balanced equation, you should be able to figure that out. It's not that hard, really. Okay?
Can we do A, B, C, D, and E tonight?
Well, again, number one, 1A, B, that video, you have actually 2 nights to watch that, right?
Yeah. Affirmative.
Okay.
Is that a long video? Like, is it
No, it's, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe, or less. Well, actually, YouTube videos can only be 15 minutes, so I know it's got to be less than 15
No,
minutes.
I saw 34-minute YouTube video. yesterday.
Well, how do they do that? I don't know. I can't, they only let me upload 15 minutes, so.
There's
All right.
a way that they like combine videos together.
Well, what I do is I have them in sequence, so you can, once you finish one, you go to the next
I
one.
think this
I like
guy
the way you do it.
Pixar though, so I think he was able to like.
All right. Listen, let's stay focused on what we're doing. Any questions about the lab over the next 3 days?
Wait, so we have to wear jeans and shoes?
You have to wear long pants, yes, for the next 3 days.
But it's tacky day tomorrow.
Well, wear tacky jeans, or bring something to change into, or hope that you still have some of my,
Change in here?
huh?
Yeah, I
Do you have a
got
place to change in here?
Not change, but you can put the scrubs over your pants, unless, everybody needs scrubs and
Right.
somebody's going to not be doing the lab. So,
Right.
okay, remember I only have a certain number of shoes and pants in here that you wear if you forget to wear what you're supposed to wear. Okay? Safety first. Wear your own clothes. Okay? Shoes and long pants. Okay?
Then you get all these staph infections and diseases.
Oh, that's Chad.
Okay.
They lick you.
Childish.
You're synthetic.